when we talk about wireless radiation and 5G, I think, because you can't see it, taste it, smell it, no one ever says in the paper they died of wireless radiation. What kind of health issues are we talking about? I mean, are we still saying that this produces occasional rare things or minor things? Like, are you talking about this like as a serious health risk, like cigarettes, or is this more like a minor health risk? Like, I don't know if people know how seriously to take this. After all, there's a lot of risks in the world. So is this kind of like flying an airplane where sure, occasionally something happens? Or is this something like cigarettes where it was a tremendous amount of people were affected? What does the science say about what are the health consequences or the suspected health consequences of this situation?
Well, very serious. This is very serious. I mean, what other environmental exposure has so rapidly, so quickly saturated every aspect of our life, even our youngest, even before we're born? So I guess the question and sort of what moved me to be interested in this was, well, how many IQ points do I want my children to lose? Because I started reading about damage to brain cells. So if there are animal studies where they've exposed animals to cell phone radiation and they've found damaged brain cells, there are studies that have found damaged memory after 1 year. What could be more important than our brain health? But that's only one piece. When we talk about oxidative stress and inflammation, what does that mean? That means that our bodies are not as resilient as they could be in a time when you will need to be really strong because of various, when you get sick and so forth. And what they found with oxidative stress is the very young and the very old are more vulnerable when you have more inflammation. So if you already have diabetes, you already have cancer, you already have all of these health issues that most people in the world who have comorbidities, which is so many people, who is perfectly healthy and has no health issue, right? So that can make you less resilient. Also, it's linked to a type of brain cancer, glioblastoma. Most people don't live more than 2 years. There's so many issues related to wireless radiation. And actually, if you say, well, we're exposed to all of these issues, we got plastics, we got, BPA, we got all these things, we're exposed to. Well, there's research that has shown that the synergistic effect can make it worse. So if you're exposed to a known carcinogen, add in wireless radiation or other types of non-ionizing radiation, and science has found a synergistic effect, which means the effect is worse when you have the toxic exposure plus the non-ionizing radiation exposure. So there's so many simple things we can do to decrease our exposure, and we've got to fix federal laws, but this is very serious. And that's why so many scientists are working all the time, raising awareness, publishing on this, signing appeals. Every year there's a new appeal. There's trying to get some movement on this because we have to fix it.
Would you say the simplest number one thing you could do is put your phone in airplane mode?
Yeah, I would say that's step one is don't put that phone to your head, put it on airplane mode more, learn how to reduce exposure to the phone. Absolutely. And start to look around your house. Step two is okay, what else can I do? What do you have that's wireless in your house? Start going around, taking a look at what you got and replacing what you can with wired options. Like I use a wired mouse. That was easy. I know my kids will say that they would never use a wired mouse. They would rather die than use a wired mouse. They use this little pad, they don't even use any mouse. But for those of you who have a mouse, and how about the telephone? So this is my telephone. And Yes, if you have a copper line, you keep that copper line and make sure you get a phone with a curly cord. The next step is to, and this is much easier than it seems, but you can get a voice over IP or some kind of corded phone. The first step, of course, is unplug at night. Step one, airplane mode, decrease exposure to your phone. Step two is at night, unplug things that are emit radiation. Don't sleep with the cell phone near your head, and don't sleep with a cordless phone base near your head.
So this mouse that I have, I should immediately just get a corded mouse that goes to my Mac computer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Get a corded mouse. And we have some, I think we have up on EHT, we have a page on scientific imaging where engineers who we work with, they simulate the wireless radiation exposure and absorption into the body, and they have the absorption from the mouse. I mean, even that, some of that is absorbed. Your keyboard, get a wired keyboard. Your printer. If you're not using your printer and it's wireless, please turn it off when you're not using it. A lot of them emit all the time. I know this might seem like, well, how often am I near a printer? Well, my dad had that printer literally next to his body. He had the computer desk. He had the printer right there. It was right there, just emanating all the time. Completely unnecessary. He probably printed once a month, right? So like little things you can start to notice. What's wireless? First get a distance, move it away from your body. If you can put in wired, that's the best option, or unplug it when you're not using it.
And what if, like, outside our house, the gas company or the water company says, no, we put in a new meter. It's the only meter we have. It's wireless. Is that like, in other words, I want to understand that in a perfect world, everything's wired. But if my gas meter, my water meter, the electric meter are somehow wirelessly connecting, the alarm in a house, any of these things, I don't know. I'm not, if you're 20 feet, well, start with the outside ones. Is this the gas meter, the water meter, the electric meter that are outside the house that are wireless? Is this, how big a concern is this? I mean,
it's a big concern. So, and there are different kinds of utility meters. So you'll have your electric meter is usually your biggest concern, because some of the other meters only are awakened when they're awakened when the truck goes by. It depends on what you have for water or for gas. And I can't say, every community is different. Some are pulsing all the time, but I can't speak on those. But let's talk about your electric meter. A few years ago, they started just switching. People didn't even know they were switching to these smart meters, certainly in our area. And they are pulsing all the time. They also create harmonics on your electrical system in your house, which emanate out of the cords that affect you and your health. So you want to get an analog meter if you can. You hold on to your meter if it hasn't been changed out to find out, do you have a smart meter? Hang on to your analog meter. Now, if you don't, if it's switched, see if you can put in an analog meter. They might only let you do a digital meter, which actually isn't the perfect solution. And they also charge you. So in my community, I had to pay $75, and I've moved 3 times and paid $75 every time to not have a wireless emitting smart meter. But then I pay, what is it, $14 every month. I mean, it's ridiculous. So if not in Maryland, unfortunately, but in other communities, they are actively trying to make laws so that you don't have to pay. It's extortion, right? Why are we paying for something we don't want, never wanted? The old meters worked great. They lasted for years, decades. These new meters last maybe 5 years. Technology changes, they swap them out. So get organized. You can find a smart meter group in your community. There's also Stop Smart Meters. Josh Hart's been working on this a long time. There's a lot of information on smart meters. There's also privacy issues. So this is a big issue, and there are a lot of lawsuits, some still happening in process related to this because so many people have been sick from the meters. Whatever, you also want to check in your bedroom. Is your bed up against the wall that has the smart meter on the other side? Some people have gotten sick because they're sleeping with their head to the meter or to, in some cases, a bank of meters, because in apartment buildings or in condos, you might get a whole wall of those meters. So check what's on the other side of your wall. Move your bed to the other side of the room. If you can, move rooms, but definitely to the other side of the room. There's also magnetic fields that come off of utility meter. So you don't want to have your head near the utility meter. And someone brought in the chat up about electrical lines. So that's another kind of non-ionizing radiation. And research has continued to show links to childhood leukemia from power line frequency magnetic fields.
So as opposed to just feeling like this is out of control, if you buy an acoustimeter, does that tell me, does that tell me if I'm experiencing, so if I have an electric meter, a gas meter, a water meter, and the acoustimeter shows no reading, does that mean it's not affecting me? Am I pretty safe?
Good question. So this is an acoustimeter that you're talking about, and this is the levels in my house. That's really low. That's super low. And the problem with the meters that we have, I will say, is that a smart meter is a little different than other things in your home. So sometimes you'll see a spike on a consumer grade meter, even a high grade one. But if you have a building biologist or an expert on this issue, they can really see what the smart meter is doing in a better way, actually, because the smart meters put out very short, intense pulses. And while my house has 0 here, I can tell you this: if I go outside, it goes up. I'm inside. I'm actually in the basement right now. And many people, when you go outside, you're going to get certain levels, and it's hard to see what's going on with the smart meter so much. But if it's a smart meter, it's emitting wireless radiation, period, full stop.
So if we say, okay, I'm going to put my cell phone on airplane mode or not use it at all, but we live in the real world and we're near people. If we're 20 feet away, 15 feet, well, if we're away from a wireless router, away from a person with a cell phone, away from someone who's connecting wirelessly on their laptop, how away is comfortable and safe? Is 2 feet, 20 feet, 200 feet? In other words, I understand perfect would be to have none of this, but I want to be around people. And even if I don't have a cell phone or a laptop on or a wireless router on, I'm very often going to be around people that are 10 feet from me, 20 feet, 50 feet. How much is the exposure when I'm not that close, but I'm still within 20 feet?
Well, it's a very good question. However, I think of it like I think of like food. I mean, in a perfect world, we'd be eating perfect all the time. But then we find ourselves in situations, we're traveling or we're out or whatever the situation is. And it's, or there are financial constraints and so forth. So it's like that. I mean, everything you do makes a big difference. So if you start with nighttime in your house, we're going to go out in the world, and I can't tell you how many feet, because honestly, if you look at from a scientific viewpoint, it really all depends. So much depends on so many different factors.